Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this session of the Bison Transport Sport Leadership Series, Female Leaders in Sport and Business. I am Leah Hextall in the fifth and final installment of this series. The Bison Transport Sport Leadership Series is designated to empower and inspire women to become leaders in sport, community, and in life. We bring together inspirational leaders from all areas of sport to tell their personal and professional stories, offer valuable advice and guidance, and share practical tips that participants can use on and off the field of play. Sport Manitoba, in partnership with Bison Transport, aspire to increase female engagement in sport by providing an informative, inclusive, and inspirational experience throughout this series. Here's a look into our valued title sponsor, Bison Transport.
It started when I was a child. I was always amazed by the trucks. And you did the little arm thing and they'd honk at you, and I was just amazed. I want to do that. I love the freedom of the highway. And it's not just a man's job anymore. Anyone can do it.
I was in a classroom with 12 men. I was the only woman in that classroom. I was actually told by a couple of instructors that a woman belongs in a truck, but not behind the driver's wheel. I got out of the truck, went to another school, and I actually found a school where they didn't care whether you're a man or a woman. And I got my license. I didn't give up.
Girls can do anything they put their mind to. I would say just do something you love. If driving is what you love, it is a very rewarding career. You really can't change people's minds. They have to change it on their own. You can say, look, I've been doing it for so long. I enjoy it. There's so many women out there. But if they don't have an open mind, you're not going to change theirs.
Women can do whatever they want and put their mindset just like anybody else, Like driving a semi is intimidating, but doesn't mean you can't do it. So just gotta put your mind to it, that's all, and be confident.
If society is telling girls to be something different, I would say go against society. Do what you want to do what makes you happy.
Being a woman, you could do anything. There's no boundaries. Not anymore. There was back way in the day, before my time. But no, you could do anything.
The only person that's going to stop you from doing it is yourself. So it doesn't matter what society says. If you want to do it, then you do it.
All right, Bison Transport, we love you. A few housekeeping notes before we get started. If your internet quality is poor, you can click here to switch stream to view a lower bandwidth. Your video quality will decrease, but your audio quality should remain the same. If you're having any technical issues, you can click on the request help bubble on the bottom right corner of the webcast page, and your help request will be emailed back to the email address that you provided us. And lastly, throughout tonight's session, we encourage you to ask questions. Make my job easier using that question box on the right-hand side of the webcast, and to engage on social media, whether that be Instagram, Twitter, or the old Facebook, tagging Sport Manitoba and using that all-important hashtag LeadHERship, HER capital in there. We have a very inspiring panel of female leaders joining us here tonight. We're very excited to get started. So with all that said, I'm done talking. Let's meet tonight's guests.
Hi, I'm Linda Young, Vice President of Human Resources and People Development at Bison Transport. Tonight's panel features prominent female leaders in Manitoba. After 20 years of progressive sales and leadership roles with a major Canadian brewery, Norva Riddell joined True North Sports and Entertainment as Vice President of Sales. 4 years later, her role changed to Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing as she continued to lead True North sales, marketing, and community operations during the various phases of the organization's growth. Norva currently serves as Senior Vice President of Sales for True North, the Winnipeg Jets Hockey Club, and its subsidiaries. In this capacity, Norva is responsible for providing leadership in the areas of corporate partnerships, ticket sales and operations, and premium services. Norva was recognized for her significant accomplishments in sales and marketing for the Manitoba Moose with the American Hockey League's Ken McKenzie Award in 2018 and was a YMCA/YWCA Women of Distinction nominee in 2017. Tina Jones is owner of Jones & Company Wine Merchants and the principal of Wine and Drinks College, Manitoba. She has directed the company's growth into the largest private wine store and destination wine school in Manitoba and has expanded the impact of wine education to develop the award-winning magazine, The Cellar Door. Tina is an active partner in the dynamic concept, the Rink Training Center, where the Rink Hockey Academy teams are the first in Winnipeg to compete in the Canadian Sports School Hockey League. Tina is also a partner in Green Carrot Juice Company, and she is the chair of the Health Sciences Centre Foundation Board of Directors. Tina received the Order of Manitoba in 2020, and earlier this year, she was named one of the 150 Manitoba Women Trailblazer Award recipients announced by the Nellie McClung Foundation. Janet McMahon has worked in sport administration for over 35 years, playing various roles, and is currently the interim CEO of Sport Manitoba. In addition to attending many games, she has also worked for the host societies of the 1999 Pan Am Games and the 2017 Canada Summer Games. Janet played basketball at the University of Winnipeg and has coached basketball for several decades, including throughout her two sons' school and club careers. She is on the executive of the Corridon Community Centre and still acts as the basketball convener for Winnipeg Minor Basketball Association. Nowadays, her personal sport interests focus on the lifetime sports of cross-country skiing, cycling, and swimming. She is a big believer that a few simple changes in the way we teach sports to our kids will inspire them to stay active for life. That means a longer, happier, and healthier life. Welcome, ladies.
Female leaders in sports and business, you want them, we got them here tonight. Norva, Janet, Tina, ladies, welcome, and thank you for joining us here on the Bison Transport Sport Leadership Series. It's so lovely to see all of you here this evening, so thank you. So I'm going to jump right into this. We talk about leader. It's a word that's thrown around a lot, but what does it really mean? And we also hear the term a born leader. They were born to be a leader. So I'm going to start with you, Norva. When I'm kind of wondering, put you on the spot right at the beginning, lady. What were those? Did you have any signs early on when you were young that you were going to be a born leader?
I had to research this question because I was not sure. So there's no better way to get feedback than to call your mother. And so I did. I phoned and we had a good chat about that. So she tells me that apparently I was always very social, loved engaging with people and enjoyed adult conversation. Said at a very young age, I was always trying to organize things and organize people and kind of taking charge of what needed to be done, in her opinion. I didn't have a brother until 6 years later, so I was on my own. So she says it was just lots of us time, and she kind of really said we just had lots of fun together, and I think at that time less of hanging out as just a child and more interaction with adults. And my father had an accident at a really young age, and so my mom went back to work full time, and so I had a caregiver, and my family, we lived just out of town, and my family helped in kind of during the day, and I would ride the bus with my uncle, and I would go to the coffee shop, and apparently that was kind of, I guess talking was never a problem apparently when I was young. Always very chatty. So I don't know if that really was much in the scope of leadership, but I think people, which was a big part of where my career has evolved, is a big part of that conversation.
Yeah, Norva, I think my mom would echo your mother's statement. I've always been very chatty too. That doesn't necessarily make me a leader, it just made me a broadcaster, but that's pretty much it. Tina, how about yourself? Was there any indication early on that you were born to lead?
Sure, I think, there were easy signs for me. We were joking at the beginning that It's like, what are those signs? But I volunteered a lot, and when I was young, I was active in our high school student council. I became the president of the student council in grade 12, and I guess I was just really interested in doing different things. And I was brought up in a type A family where we were pushed to do good things and make change. So I guess that's something started it off too.
Yeah, I never know if it's a blessing or a curse when it comes to a type A family or not. But it happens to the best of us. Janet, how about you? We've got chatty, we've got good with people and pushing them around into where they need to be. And we also have type A. Do you fall into any of those?
I think so. I was the baby of 5, and I had to adjust and get along with people and family. I think they would describe me as being pretty strong-willed. And I think in terms of my sport career, when I was younger, I was often the captain of teams. So I think very similar to the other two.
And Janet, I'll stay with you here right now because I mentioned off the top that we hear the word leader a lot, but it can mean different things to different people. What does it mean to you?
Well, I think it depends on how you use it in a context. But I think if you describe a person who is a leader, it's that they know what they believe in, they're honest, and they inspire others to be better.
Tina, how about yourself?
When I think about leadership, I think about 3 things: the ability to see a better world, the ability to be able to articulate what that looks like, and then to have the strength and the courage to do something about it. I came from a culture that doing great things in the world and the possibilities around that are endless. And so it's not what it is, but how things could be.
What it is, but how things could be. I love that. Norva, how about you?
I agree. There's all kinds of leadership. Personally, I value someone who supports and encourages others, someone that believes in open, honest communication and lets others know their value and potential. I also really appreciate, people that are authentic and humble and build trust and respect with each other. They need a strong sense of self and believe in core values that are easy for people to understand. And I also like that I like leaders that should be able to provide positive feedback that reinforces and encourages the very best that each of us can do, whatever that is. And I think the scope of team is such an important part of that.
Norva, you just mentioned a lot of aspects, and I've read articles where you've talked about earlier on in your career when you spent the first 20 years of it working for a major Canadian brewery, where you talked about how early on in your career you really pushed to build relationships. Why was that important, building relationships early on?
I think building meaningful relationships with people, they have such a lasting impact. And I think what I've learned over the many years, and especially kind of living and working in this province the entire time, is you just never know how those relationships are going to impact you in the future. And you can never underestimate the value of a friendship. It kind of likely we'll get into this conversation too, right? But building relationships with others often leads itself into mentorship and people that really influence your life. So I value people, and I really appreciate everything that they bring to the table, and it's meaningful.
It is meaningful, and sometimes though it can be something that's a little difficult because you're dealing with people that you're not necessarily alike. And Janet, for yourself, I mean, when you work and live in really a male-dominated society, male-dominated jobs, did you ever see yourself being and working for and having a career in a male-dominated profession?
No, I don't think I did, but I also didn't think of it that way. I think I was always grateful for the opportunities and the challenges that I had. I think when we talk about leadership, it takes time to learn and grow, to create the capabilities, and that comes with experiences. So while I did work for and with a lot of men, I use them as being great mentors. I ask them for help and support. So I think that's really critical, is figuring out what you bring to the table, as Nora has said. And one of the things I would really encourage young women to do is build that sisterhood, and not just at work, but in your life, because we think about things differently. We come at them from a different perspective. And I think that's really important about building your own credibility and building that kind of trust. And And I think that does take time and effort on our part to ensure that we can compete and be part of and bring value to our male-dominated professions.
Oh, absolutely, Janet. Those are all just fantastic points. You know, when we think about men, and you mentioned about using them as mentors, and we think about our relationships with men, one of the most important relationships for me in my life with a male mentor is with my dad and my father. And, you know, Tina, I can't help but think about your dad a little bit, and this quote that I found: failure isn't an option. That your late father Louis mentioned to you, who had tremendous success and career and personal success in his life. So what does that saying mean to you, and how did you carry it forth as a leader?
So that's a really powerful statement, because when you go into business or go into any project, if you have that as a mentality, then you can focus your energy and you go forward, because you just can't fail. I'm pretty competitive. People that I work with and mentor and collaborate with know that I'm pretty competitive, but it's just really, for me, it's never an option. So it's a really powerful statement, I think.
That's amazing. And your dad was just such a machine. So, you know, I can just see him saying that to you back in the day. And Tina, I just want to stay with you for a second here, because, you know, I think, you know, we all know in 2020 that we have seen so much change. And I think we've also learned, though, and we were all discussing this a little before we came on air today, was the fact that, you know, those structures that were put in place for us really kind of maybe kept us in the status quo and didn't lend themselves to change. So I'm just wondering, Tina, what you have seen and able to do around those structures in sport and in business.
Right. Thank you, Leah. This is a very good question. There's lots of status quo in hockey, coaching, and sport, as we know. And hockey is a very vertically oriented structure. So the rink and our hockey academies brought a new model to hockey training by purposefully developing all athletes who chose to enroll in our programs. And so this long-standing hockey model, sometimes it sees inequitable development of our kids. And I think we've all probably seen it, where the coach has all the power and kids never really speak up because they just want to play. And like our son, for example, went through a whole year of very high-level hockey, and we think the coach maybe spoke to him twice, but he didn't ever speak up. And so it just brings out, that kind of stuff brings out the worst in hockey and the status quo piece. So, and, you know, many people in hockey feel the need to protect their turf, and for whatever reason, we find that kind of one of the things that really needed to change. And so when our rink model was put together, we completely turned this notion upside down. So every athlete that comes to us is our customer. They're treated with respect, and they're nurtured to be the best people that they can be. So we develop each athlete as individuals and give them the tools to reach their dreams and their goals. And because we have this vision, we are not only playing to win, we are playing to develop. With that comes fair play, which is a notion that isn't known in sport, but we develop the whole person. And so we really have adhered to this, and we love the results that we're seeing.
You know, and Norva, just kind of getting into the hockey conversation here, and True North Sports and Entertainment, and obviously you playing such a large role as the VP of sales there. When we talk about structures in such a massive workplace as yours, what have you seen through perhaps the latest as leaders that you're going to take a look at and see if you guys can challenge the status quo once we get out of this and we move forward?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's had an impact in our industry too. I would say there's a great deal of pride associated to how people have adapted in all aspects of our organization. Certainly in our department, from a selling standpoint, there's been a great deal of emphasis on our team members to continue to nurture relationships with their customers, stay connected, learn and develop new ways to stay connected. There's, you know, how even our partners, there's been some great things come out of it too. When you think of typically going to Toronto and having conversations with folks that are major partners, now getting on a Zoom call or getting on a Teams call is really efficient. And I think we were talking about this earlier, you can get decisions faster, and you're actually, in some strange way, in addition to your customers and your employees, you're getting to know them on a different level. You know, you get to know their families and their pets and their kids, and different people jump on calls, and it's kind of just made everybody real people. you know, and you can, people that you connect with on a regular basis, you can tell in their voice if it's a tough day or a great day. And so you get a different kind of opportunity. We've been impacted significantly, obviously, with no fans in the venue, no events in the venue. So the rebuild, I think, is going to take time. We're going to have to really work hard at how we engage our customers, make them feel safe and secure in returning to spend time with us. It is so odd. I am going to go over to the hockey game tonight, but it is so odd to walk in there and only have, you know, upwards of 150 people in the venue and not the excitement of what our fans bring to live entertainment, live hockey experience. So we've had to adjust, and the word that we've all grown to dislike, pivot, like everybody, but there are things that we will continue to do. There will things that have turned out to be best practices that we kind of are surprised that maybe, you know, we haven't thought of before. So yeah, we're looking forward to it, but we're really looking forward most to getting people back in the venue.
Yeah, and Janet, for yourself, you know, coming into your role, really when that huge second wave was hitting us really hard, and you know, so how has Sport Manitoba pivoted, and what have you seen there?
Well, I think I would suggest that we are not doing what we would normally do in the everyday. Most of our response has been around trying to communicate and ensure that we keep sport open and athletes and all the people involved safe. So we spent a lot of time around return to play protocols, navigating the health orders about what they really mean. So we try and provide a lot of support to our provincial sport organizations.
And Janet, how have the various roles that you've held over your career and the experiences you've had, how have they helped and played into your role now?
Well, I think I could suggest that throughout my career, I've been given lots of responsibility, and I always refer to it, they gave me enough rope to hang myself. Yeah, I think that you know, Norva went back to people. I think this business is about people and the betterment of people. And the opportunity for me to work and learn from so many people, the volunteers, administrators, athletes, coaches, and officials, I think that has created an opportunity for sort of continuous learning. It's not necessarily going to school, but it's listening to people and hearing, you know, the experiences that they've had and the things that they've learned along the way. So for me, it's been having such a variety of opportunities and a lot of change. In my world, I've gone from, you know, being a funding administrator, working with games, working in high performance. And I would have to also mention games. To have the opportunity to go to a Manitoba Games or Western Canada Games or Canada Games, they are truly like going to the Olympics. And it is such an incredible experience that all of the values that you feel about, you know, people, it's just such a feel-good scenario. So, you know, those kinds of things that, you know, you'll never forget those experiences, those moments. And I think that's what really creates passion for people in sport, is about creating those moments. And I've had lots of them through my career.
Absolutely. And Tina, what about yourself? I mean, you wear so many different hats, you know, whether it's in your business world or with HSC as the board chair, you know, working with our wonderful friend John Lyon there and all the beautiful work they do down there. But, you know, how have those experiences played in for you in the roles that you've had?
Well, I would echo what Janet has said. And really for me, I value the most is the ability to learn from others. I was just speaking with a friend of mine who was a past chair at St. Boniface Hospital Foundation. And she said she, you know, got her MBA doing that job. And it's a really rewarding job. Being in the charitable organization business is taught me so much. So I really do value that the most. And I've had many, many great bosses. I've also had terrible bosses. And what I want to say to some of the people that are watching is, if you get into a job where you have a terrible boss, you should get out as fast as possible.
I would agree with that, Tina. I really do believe that, because, you know, it's hard to excel under a leader that, you know, isn't leading or supporting or any of that. So I think that's just a great little nugget that you dropped there, because why waste your time? Life's too short.
Yeah.
You know, and Norva, when we talk about experiences, I mean, I think about the start of your career with the, you know, in Canadian breweries and then going to hockey. I mean, I think beer and hockey go hand in hand, personally. At least they do for me.
They certainly do.
But I'm just wondering how those experiences in that industry perhaps translated into your world of hockey now with True North.
They 100% do. So like the other women, I mean, I've really valued and appreciated the experience that all the roles have provided, the life lessons. And it really, because I've had so many different roles with the organization and then transitioning that over to True North, I really value the importance of all the roles that make an organization successful and the importance of people in those roles. And I think part of that journey is actually, some of those roles I also did myself. I also have had great leaders, and I appreciate the knowledge that they've shared and understand that patience, perseverance, determination, hard work, all those things are important. And you need to learn along the way, or choose to learn from everyone around you and your experiences, right? You can choose to kind of dismiss it or take away what you like and don't like and really turn that into something that you can leverage. I really valued the people that I've worked alongside with, and I've learned from all of them, and I still do. I think that's also what keeps you young too, is, there's lots of times that we can really lean into each other as a team, and the end result of what we can do is far more successful. And especially, it's funny how participating in sport as a young person, and then you kind of my career with Molson and my time with True North, you really do get a lot more accomplished when it's okay to, if somebody else is better at something, than you, and leaning into their expertise and experience or perspective. I've really enjoyed that. So I feel very fortunate.
Absolutely. I want to remind our audience watching tonight that you can ask your own questions, please. You can just go down that question box. I know there's a few in, and we're going to get to those. We're first going to take a quick little break, though, a little 1-minute break here to take another look at our valued title sponsor, Bison Transport.
So I was at the top of the track, and you can just see going into corner one is just, it dives down, and you can't see anything else. And you just know, okay, this is going to be intense. And went down. It felt like I got thrown around in a garbage can. That's the best way I can describe it. And just the pressures are really, really tough, and they just drag you down to the bottom of the sled. You can't see anything. We'll have the maple leaf there. Nice. With our number. Or is it number maple leaf? Like that. Yeah. You never know what you're going to be great at until you actually try everything. And just because there's maybe not socially accepted to do something, it doesn't matter. You got to still try that, because it could bring you to Olympics, or it could bring you to wherever you need to go, and you're going to be really happy.
Female leaders in sports and business. Norva, Tina, and Janet are with us, and this is just flying by, ladies. We've already been chatting for 30 minutes, but it just proves that maybe all of our mothers are right, is that we are very talkative people, and that's what we do well. So there's nothing wrong with that. I want to turn my attention to some questions from the audience, if you ladies are game. So here we go. I'm just going to read this one off. So here's a question for the panel, and perhaps let's start with you on this, Janet. How would you encourage young women to step up as a leader when they have the skill and ability, but not the confidence?
Well, I think that you need to build that confidence, right? I think, in my career, I did suffer initially with the imposter syndrome. I was a fraud. It was just luck. When are they going to notice that I can't really do this? So I think what you really need to do is do things that will stretch you in terms of your abilities and learn from it. And questioning yourself is not really the way to go. So I guess in terms of real core things, it would be really listening, really learning, and being prepared to put in the extra effort to learn and really understand something. When I started in the sport business, I'm a sport person. I didn't know how to read a balance sheet. I really didn't know a lot about finances. So I went to school, and I figured that out. So I think it's really important to, develop and learn what you need to learn to get to those places. But also I think it's really key for women to find their voices, particularly at certain tables. So having that ability to, when you have something important to say, and then picking your moments when you say it.
Absolutely. Great points there. Norva, how about yourself? How would you encourage young women to use their voice, especially when maybe they don't quite have that confidence yet?
Yeah, I would really encourage women to be courageous, like accept challenges, seek out new opportunities. Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone and take risks or make a mistake. That always worried me. You know, I don't want to make a mistake, but you got to make mistakes because it makes you better. I'd also suggest to you don't always have to have a clear path. You know, leave your options open, learn from your experience. It's all part of the collective journey, and the whole idea of, you know, if any one of us probably on this call, you know, where are you going to be in 5 years or 10 years? You know, I don't know that you really need to have that all mapped out. I think the other thing I would encourage is seeking out mentors. You know, mentorship's not always tangible. You know, it might be somebody you can just reach out to, have a conversation. It's not necessarily about the credential they have, but rather the relevance of experience or perspective that they can offer. Really has to be someone that you trust and that you can ask a question and that you get a really honest point of view, and they'll give you that perspective whether or not you should go down a certain path or not. I've appreciated that, and I think that that's certainly something that's mentorship is far more important and relevant and talked about now than it certainly was in my era particularly, but it's really important.
And last but not least, what about you? What are your thoughts on this question from our audience?
You know, I think that this is a common question that we see, and confidence is always in question, but it really shouldn't be, because if you can be yourself, you can have honest conversations and listen a lot. I think that you pick your spots and your voice will be heard, but try by asking lots of questions too. Engage people, and the mentoring piece, as Norva mentioned, is critical. So ask people if they can help you, and people always want to help. In my experience, sounding boards are really, really important for everyone, whether you're young, you know, just starting out as a career, or whether you want to change your career. Finding a sounding board who can really, really hear you out and give you good advice, I think, is really a critical piece. And you just feel more confident when you feel that you're going in the right direction. And I just really think people should ask good questions.
Yes, I know. That's what my bosses are always telling me. Ask good questions, Leah. So I will say this, Tina, both you and Norva just touched on it. So I want to go to it because I'm a huge believer in mentors. I have a few in my pocket that have done so much for me. But Tina, when you think of a mentor, what is a mentor for you?
So a mentor for me is someone who, for someone who really gives more than what's being given to them. So really, I've had some great mentors in my life, and I just really value other people's opinions. And when you get out down in the trenches in business, there's nothing better than asking for some mentorship from people. And we talked a little bit about collaboration too, and collaboration is very, very, very important for women in leadership. And I think that there's so many opportunities that happen when we collaborate, and mentors just automatically happen out of that collaborative process. We're all in a position to hurt each other or help each other. And when we try to compete instead of collaborate or mentor, there is only two outcomes, one good and one bad. So, when we're all on the same team, pulling in the same direction, we can very much succeed. And I think, working together and helping others through mentorship, thinking outside the box is the right thing. It's the first and always the best thing.
That's excellent. Norva, how about yourself? You mentioned that it wasn't perhaps mentorship in your era that you mentioned wasn't really around, but now is today. But how do you view it?
You know what? I think it wasn't as formalized. Like it wasn't that someone was saying, "Oh, you need to seek out a mentor. You really need to get to know certain people or certain situations." I think now I think it's just really encouraging to know that they can be men or women. I had a lot of mentors in my time, and a lot of great leaders. And as I reflect, I learned a great deal from each and every one of them. And kind of that statement too. You're going to have great leaders, and you're going to have leaders that might not be your favorite. But even if you can distinguish between what you like in from one leader or another, that's also part of the mentorship process. Is kind of determining what kind of person you want to be, who you can lean into, ask questions. I agree with Tina that I think you do want to just keep asking and learn as much as possible. I think all of us that have navigated our journeys, our careers, we're always very open and interested to sharing information, and if we could do something over, what we might do differently and how we can save someone time, or what maybe you would encourage them to consider. I love having conversations with my nieces. I love their perspective, and I guess in some way, there's a reverse mentorship too, because they share experiences and perspective with me that I find valuable too. So, and I experience that in the office too. There's such a nice demographic, a mix of men and women, and they all add a ton of value. So it does work both ways, I would suggest, but I just think the more you can learn from others and life experiences, the better.
Absolutely. We have another question from our audience here, and Janet, I'm going to go back to you here with this, and they want to know about, as a female leader, what was, perhaps the most significant barrier or challenge in your career, and how did you build off of it?
Well, I think I started that by saying there were moments in my world that I really lacked confidence and questioned whether I was good enough. And I would argue that I found that many of the men that I've worked with have never really questioned their abilities. For me, I think I also had some difficulty balancing family and extracurricular activities, and I had to make some lifestyle sacrifices for sure. But I think, just going on the mentorship thing, I think the other piece for me was I wasn't that strong at networking or building those kinds of alliances that you need. I didn't come from Winnipeg. I didn't know a lot of people that had been historically within the sport community, and I just wasn't proactive enough in seeking out and advocating on my own behalf early in my career. So I think those things, it took a lot of time to, find that belief in myself and trust my own voice, and to reach out and get to know people and use them in a way, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but to really leverage, relationships and understand that people are really willing and very giving, and you really need to, ask the questions that you want answered, set your course, and I think the other piece of it is just to really express your passion about what you do, because I think that's, we all talk about passion, but it's highly respected in particularly the sport world, but I think in the business world as well. So if you love what you do and you're just hungry to learn more and to be part of something, you do get recognized and you do get rewarded for that.
Janet, you just touched on a few things there that I'm thinking back to earlier in my career, when I first started in the broadcast industry, and you mentioned about advocating for yourself, asking the questions that you want answered. But one of the things that I found early on, and even a little bit to this day, when you're a female and you advocate for yourself strongly and you ask direct questions and you use your voice, there are words that can be used to describe you as being difficult. So Tina, I'm wondering if you've ever experienced this, because I know I have, and I've had to learn how to walk that line almost to go along to get along. And I'm at the point now, I'm 41 and I don't care. But, when I was younger, it was something that I really had to put some thought in, because I was tagged with that in my career. So I'm wondering, Tina, if you ever faced that as well in your business world.
For sure. I think that whenever you want to push in a certain direction or change or lead, or, and this year was a great example in the wine business, we made some significant changes. And I think people label you as aggressive or, other words. And it's kind of unfair, because when you're strong-willed, you do get labeled. But I think that if you can have great and open communication with the people that matter, then I really think that we can diffuse these things pretty easily. And you just can't take it personally, right? Because if you're really quite assertive and you're a woman, whatever, right? We just got to keep working together, and we've got to make sure that we are on the same page, and doing great things is easy when everyone feels included, and when you do have those open lines of communication.
Can I just jump in? Because I just want to comment to what Tina made. I think that the other thing that we as women don't recognize is that we really are very skilled at the soft skills. we are good communicators, and we do develop stronger and more intense relationships than men. So I think we actually need to use that to our advantage. So yes, we need to advocate, we need to be assertive, we need to speak our minds, but at the same time, I think we have skills that we learn from when we're very young that we need to show the other side and make it. And I think women often bring some real value to, you know, various, you know, team members because of the fact that we're able to sort of be compassionate and empathize and use our communication skills, which I think men still have a lot of difficulty doing.
Those are great points, Janet. Norva, I saw you nodding your head to several of these points. Do you have an opinion here? I think you might.
You know what? I think it's well summarized. But, you know, I think finding your voice correlates to the confidence aspect, right? The more confident you get, I mean, you acknowledge that, you know, the more confident you get, the more comfortable you are. And it does take time, experience, and it's easy for all of us to say, I think, because we've got that experience. But, you know, as you encourage other young men and women to be considering that, they really do have to just, you've got to be authentic. You need to be your authentic voice. And it's not about hearing yourself speak at those tables and such, but it's rather about, you know, developing your passion and your area of expertise, the topic that you have the knowledge and credibility to speak about. And then all that stuff is just it'll just follow. And, you know, and also the support of your peers. You know, it's always in business, it's always good to have it. Every organization has a different perspective on it, but, you know, that internal sponsor or somebody that kind of takes you under their wing and provides some guidance and direction. If, you know, you're just starting, or maybe you're new to a leadership table, you know, I think that it's also really incumbent on all of us to support each other's, but, you know, specifically supporting women, also men, but I think women need to work harder at supporting women and encourage them. Like if they do something great, celebrate it, or, you know, just be supportive and be kind along the way. Like often that might get lost too. I agree with the, you know, we do have lots of other assets about how we can be empathetic and so on and so forth. But I think too, we can be competitive, and we need to be good people.
Yeah, Norva, I love that, and about supporting women. And, you know, I almost don't like even saying women supporting women, because I feel like it kind of ran into that cliche moment, but I absolutely believe that we have not been good enough at it. I have not been good enough at it in my career. I have felt competitiveness with other women, especially when, you know, you're almost a token, you know, in my sports broadcasting world, you're the one woman on the broadcast, and you get into this, well, there's only room for one of us. No, there's room for all of us. So when you take the elevator up, send it back down, put another female in it, and bring her back up with you, because that's the only way we're going to start taking over the world, because we're 51% of the population, and we should. So other than that, I've got another audience question for everyone here. And Tina, this is for you. So what key steps did you take at the beginning of the idea of the rink to build a successful brand and business?
Okay, so what key steps did we take? Well, we knew that skill development was going to be the main facet of our business. And really that became the thing, because it was a revenue-based model. And so everyone knows that you can't build a hockey rink and just rent it out at $200 an hour. So we were passionate about skill development and bringing young kids into the next level of their dreams. So we had this idea, and we hired great people. And as everyone knows in business, all businesses are about people. And we were fortunate to be able to have some incredible people started out. We still have many people that have been with us all 12 years. And again, very fortunate to have great people. But there was the key steps were to just develop the model, and then fill it with the great people, and the customers would come.
Oh, that's fantastic. Right, I have another audience question for you ladies, and this is for all three of you. The best advice you ever received and who it was from. Janet, I'm going to start with you.
Well, I think I have to credit my mother, and I don't think she said it, but she used to repeat it. She used to always say to me, you need to work smarter, not harder. I was going to say you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, but I know that everybody knows that Wayne Gretzky said that, so I can't steal it.
That's great. Norva, how about yourself? Best advice you ever received, and who was it from?
Yeah, you know what? There was two people that stood out for me as it relates to, and I don't know if I can totally nail it down to a specific statement or advice, but there were two leaders early on in my career. You know, one that encouraged me and intentionally put me in situations that I was out of my comfort zone, but it really taught me how to think on my feet, my potential. It encouraged me to be okay with taking those risks and learning from them. So that was a leader early on when I was much younger. And the other one was a leader that I had that was just authentic, encouraging, resourceful, and he really cared about people. And I was really motivated by his leadership and how he just kind of, everything was, even if it had a negative, or not negative, but it had a directional perspective that needed to change or whatever. It was always given in really positive, constructive way. And I'm always reminded how it made me feel. So I try to be very cognizant of that when I'm working and interacting with other team members, because that made me feel good. So I try to use that as I lead others and work, just life in general. So just kind of the combination, I think.
I like that. Tina, you got any advice there that anybody gave you, and how do you?
Not specifically given to me, but Steve Jobs once said that it doesn't make sense to hire smart people and then tell them what to do. We hire smart people so that they can tell us what to do. And, you know, this fits into my business life, and that I don't hire people for jobs. I hire people and create jobs for them, specifically around them. And the difference here is that many times we see a skill set of what's desired and a long list of responsibilities, but instead I find great people with a certain skill set and then create the responsibilities around those skill sets. And I think this leads to great job satisfaction and great achievement within organizations. And keep in mind that it's estimated that companies with 3 or more women in senior management functions score higher in all dimensions of organizational performance across the board.
Oh, that's great. I love that. You know, can't go wrong listening to Steve Jobs. He did a thing or two in his life. I'm not trying to name drop here, but I'm just going to add my best advice I ever received here. And because I've heard Norva mention comfort zone several times, and I'm a big believer in that and stepping outside of your comfort zone. And I was interviewing Sidney Crosby once, and I said to him, you know, Sidney, are you comfortable with your game? And he looked at me and said, Leah, if you're comfortable, that means you're not trying. And I just loved that. I was like, yeah, you just checked me, Sid. Okay, I got you. But still, it was great. It was great. And I've held on to that. And it just explains why he's been so good at what he's done. He might be the best player in the league, but if you're comfortable, that means you're not trying hard enough. So I love that. So I heard Norva mention comfort zone, and I agree with her right there. Okay, Norva, I'm actually going to come back to you here too. So diversity and inclusion, it's something that in 2020 seems to be buzzwords, but they're also extremely important words. And I'm wondering what your experience with this conversation of diversity and inclusion has been like in your career.
So I think so during my career, I would say there's limited formalized conversation about diversity and inclusion, and especially in my first career. But what I'm really excited about is that we are in fact having conversation, and I think it's an area where we're all learning. I can only speak specifically to what we're doing as an organization right now. So we clearly acknowledge there's room for improvement as it relates to diversity and inclusion. And so we, True North, we're continuing to seek out a better understanding on how we can make those improvements. And so we just established a diversity inclusion committee that's driven and supported by our leadership here, as well as inclusiveness of our employees, reflecting diversity throughout the organization. So at this point, we're on a journey of listening and learning as it relates specifically internally. Outside of True North, I think that it's just a conversation that just has to keep going. It's long overdue, I guess I would suggest that we have to keep the conversation going, and it's vitally important in all aspects of our life, not just work.
And Janet, I'd have to think as a Sport Manitoba governing body, that diversity inclusion, very key in what you do.
Yeah, and I would suggest that we're somewhat in the same place that Norva's organization is in. We've just created a committee reviewing all of our policies and procedures And again, working with our sport community to ensure that we are inclusive and we are considering these sorts of things. It will take time, for sure, but at the same time, I think we all recognize that we have to create a safe and a welcoming environment, or our population that we serve will decline significantly with what we're seeing in the overall population.
Tina, what about in your world?
Well, in the wine business, we have more than 60-70% of the people that work with us are women, and they're in lead roles. And as well as our education facility, we find that opening up opportunities within education, it just feeds right into diversity and inclusion. And so we're very proud of that, and we support many women's projects. And I would say that our charitable giving was mostly women and children's projects. So, women in business, from that perspective, it's really, really important to us. And of course, in hockey, it's incredibly important. And we're very proud to have supported many women's teams, and we employ many, many women at the rink too. So it's getting there, but as Norva and Janet just said, it's not going to happen overnight, and it is in some ways new territory, but it's a critical piece for us to be successful in the future.
When we speak about success, and this session, the fifth and final one of our Bison Transfer Leadership Series here with Sports Manitoba, female leaders in sports and business. And I'm just, as the clock is ticking down here, and we're getting set to wrap it up because, Norva, those Jets are playing at 8 o'clock. We got to get you that.
Gotta go. Yeah, we gotta go.
You as well. We gotta go. We're on the clock here. But the fact of the matter is that when I'm just sitting here, and I've loved listening to all three of you ladies tonight and connecting with you on your experiences. But when you think about being a female leader in sport and business, and Janet, I will start with you on this. What do you love about it? You talked about earlier about pursuing passion. What do you love about being a woman who leads?
Wow, that's throwing a lot at me, Leah. I think I have to go back to, it's about the people. It's about the people that I meet. It's about the people I work with. It's about the people I meet with, and that sort of thing. And I mean, we're talking about sport here. Like I said, I'm a sport junkie. I love it. I think sport, has so many benefits to our life, to the quality of life. It expresses so many values if it's taught properly. And I think it really is just always about the betterment of people. I mean, you look at world champions and Olympians, I mean, they're ordinary people doing extraordinary things. So for me, that just is something I embody, and we all have our strengths and weaknesses, but when you get into an environment like this, when you perform as part of a team, you just become something bigger and greater than you as an individual. So for me, I think that passion is just, I love what I do. I love the people I work with, and I love what we're trying to accomplish.
Doing a great job at Sport Manitoba, by the way. Janet, Norvo, how about you?
Janet stole a lot of my thoughts. So, but I agree. Like, I think it's a lot about people, and we're not, we're in an industry, sports and entertainment. We're in an industry about fun and bringing people together, excitement. I think we work with a lot of very competitive people, creative people, people that are really wanting to make a difference. So whether that's delivering results or seeing that, people are having a great time in the venue, or whatever the progression is, I think everybody is motivated in a little bit of a different way, which I think makes the team component really exceptional. But I'm the same. I love what I do. I love where I work. I really enjoy the people I work with. And I think that's, I don't know, the whole concept of loving going to work every day. I actually really look forward, and we can actually all come back to going to work and work in the true sense of just being together. I mean, Zoom calls and Teams calls are great. You get to spend time with people, but I can hardly wait till we can actually get together and really make that difference and impact that we do when you can collaborate and be together to get that done.
And Nora, you do make an impact, because I remember being a 20-some-year-old early in my career, marching around MTS Center before it was Bell MTS Place, when you were with the Moose, and you were one of the only other females in the building with me that I would run into. And so I thank you for that, and leading the way and giving me someone to look to in the industry. So I appreciate that from you. Tina, last but not least, how about yourself? What do you love about being a female who leads?
I really like trailblazing. I really like seeing people be better and do better things for themselves. For me, and especially in the hockey business, there's been no greater satisfaction than seeing an average athlete that struggles, that really works hard, and maybe some people didn't believe in them, but that they really want to play at the very highest level. And when they reach those goals, there's nothing greater than that for me. And we've just seen so many incredible opportunities opened up for kids in Manitoba that it wasn't really possible before.
Yeah, and Tina, whether it's Jones and Company or the rink in that beautiful building, I know that's an input behind you, but just gorgeous center, or your work with HSC, when you talk about people in this community, about Tina Jones, the first thing that comes out of their mouth is that she gets things done. So, and that you do, my friend. Janet, Tina, Norva, this has been an absolute pleasure. It's our 5th and final session. I can't think of a better way to end it off. It's just been such a wonderful series that Sport Manitoba has put on. But I will say this, our valued sponsor, Bison Transport, we cannot thank you enough. Without you, this would not have been possible, this entire series. I do want to let everybody know that the Zoom networking session will go on tonight. So just take a little bit of break, go grab that glass of wine or get a little munchy, do whatever you need to do, come back. The Zoom link is in your confirmation email, or you can find it at the Sport Manitoba website. As I did mention, this is the 5th and final session. We are going to be ending this series tonight, but the good news is if you missed one and you enjoyed what you saw here tonight and want to go back, these are all on demand. We know about technology here, so you can go find them at sportmanitoba.ca/leadership, capital HER in there again. So ladies, as I mentioned, thank you so much. Bison Transport, thank you so much. Sport Manitoba, specifically Susan Lambo and Amanda Wilkes, who have held my hand through this and made sure that I'm prepared and ready to rock every time we've joined each other. Thank you, ladies, and thank you for having me. It's been my privilege to host this incredible panel of women, not only tonight, but throughout this 5-part series. So ladies, I will bid you adieu. Norva, get to that hockey game so we don't keep you there. It's Jets. Absolute pleasure. Go Jets is right. We wish everybody who's joined us here tonight all the best, nothing but continued success. Use that voice of yours, step out of your comfort zone, and don't be afraid to lead the way. Thank you so much. I'm Leah Hextall. Have a wonderful night.